Okay, so you've brought in this source, rise, he calleth thee, and wow, that title alone, it really grabs you, you know? It sounds intense, like it's all about making a big change and leaving the past behind. What's the feeling here? More like a practical guide or something deeper?
I think you're really picking up on the right energy there. It's interesting you use the word deeper, because this piece really is all about spiritual vision.
Okay.
How clearly we see ourselves and our purpose, through, uh, I guess you could say, the lens of faith. Think of this deep dive as a kind of checkup on that vision.
Ooh, I like that. A spiritual eye exam, kind of like checking your prescription, making sure you're seeing things clearly. So, what does he say makes for blurry vision? You know, those things that keep us from seeing as clearly as we could.
Well, Elder DeFeo, he actually starts things off with a pretty relatable experience, needing eye injections.
Okay.
He uses it as a metaphor, asking us if our physical sight can get cloudy and needs attention, doesn't our spiritual vision deserve that same care? And to really kind of drive this home, he dives into the story of blind Bartimaeus from the Gospel of Mark.
Okay, so Bartimaeus, he's the guy who calls out to Jesus for healing, right?
Yeah.
How does that tie into spiritual vision?
You got it. And that's the fascinating part.
Yeah.
Here's Bartimaeus, physically blind, yet he recognizes Jesus for who he truly is, the Messiah, the Son of David. He sees something those with physical sight completely miss.
Wow. So it's like he had this deeper level of understanding that others were missing, even though he couldn't physically see?
Exactly.
Mhm.
And this is DeFeo's first major point.
Mhm.
Clear spiritual vision. It begins with fixing our focus on Jesus Christ, even when, the world tries to drown him out. Remember how people tried to quiet Bartimaeus when he called out to Jesus? He just cried out louder.
He didn't let anyone dim his enthusiasm, that's for sure. There's definitely a lesson there. But I have to imagine there's more to it than just acknowledging who Jesus is, right? It's got to go beyond just saying, I know who you are.
You're absolutely right. It's not just about recognizing Jesus, but about letting that recognition transform us. And that's where the next part of Bartimaeus' story gets really interesting.
Okay, so we're at the point where Jesus calls out to Bartimaeus. What happens next? This is where I'm picturing, a movie scene, slow motion, maybe some swelling music.
Well, hold on to your popcorn, because this is where it gets really good. Jesus simply tells him, rise. And get this, Bartimaeus immediately throws off his beggar's cloak before he's even healed.
He just tosses it aside, like, see you later, wouldn't want to be ya. Why do that before the miracle even happens?
That's the million-dollar question, right? DeFeo says that this is about shedding those excuses, those beggar's coats we use to justify, well, staying stuck. It's like Bartimaeus is saying, I'm not waiting for a change in circumstances. I'm choosing to see myself differently right now.
That is some powerful imagery. It's that I'm stepping into a new identity moment, even if the old one is still kind of clinging on.
Exactly. And that's DeFeo's second key point, leaving that old self behind, embracing the potential for change. He's not just talking about a one-time repentance thing, but about recognizing those beggar's coats we all wear. Excuses, blame, self-pity, and choosing to let them go.
Oof, that hits home. Makes you think, what are my beggar's coats? What are those things I keep clinging to that are holding me back? But wait a second. Bartimaeus was still blind at this point, right? So how did he even get to Jesus after ditching the cloak?
And that leads us beautifully to the third point. He walked toward the sound of Jesus' voice. He didn't let his inability to see the entire path stop him from moving forward. It's about trusting and following, even when we don't have all the answers.
Whoa, now that is what I call a leap of faith. He couldn't see the way forward, but he trusted the voice guiding him.
And because of that unwavering faith, he was healed.
Mm.
And then he followed Jesus. The order of events here is significant, wouldn't you say?
You're saying the healing was a result of his faith, not a prerequisite for it? He didn't wait to have it all figured out before taking that first step.
Precisely. DeFeo's point is that the blessings, the breakthroughs, they often come as we follow, not necessarily before we're willing to move, even when it's hard to see the whole path clearly.
Okay, so we've got this amazing story, these powerful principles. It's a lot to take in. It feels like, we're going beyond just knowing something about faith and actually getting into, like, the territory of living it.
You're hitting the nail on the head, and Elder Feo, he's careful to point out this whole spiritual vision thing, it's not like flipping a switch.
Right.
It's not about achieving perfect clarity overnight. It's a lifelong journey, a process of strengthening that vision one step at a time.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's
Yeah.
like anything else worth having, right? It takes time and effort. It takes showing up consistently, even when it's hard.
Exactly. And just like with our physical sight, sometimes we need to make adjustments along the way. Think about it. What helps us see clearly in one season of life might need to shift as we face new challenges, new experiences.
So it's not about finding that one right answer and then we're good to go, right? It's an ongoing process, growing, learning, refining how we see things, which I guess makes it a little less about reaching a destination and more about the journey itself.
Now you're getting it. And that journey might mean asking for help along the way, just like Bartimaeus did. He recognized that he couldn't overcome his blindness alone. He needed Jesus.
That's such a good point. Because sometimes our pride or our fear or whatever it is can keep us from asking for help, right? Whether it's reaching out to other people or reaching out to something bigger than ourselves.
Absolutely. And that's where faith comes in. It's about trusting that even when we don't have all the answers, even when we can't see every step of the path laid out before us, there's something greater guiding us.
This has been incredible. It's amazing how a story from thousands of years ago can still be so relevant. It really makes you think about your own life. What stands out to you most from all this?
For me, it's that powerful image of the beggar's coats. It's such a vivid reminder that we all have them. Those things we cling to that hold us back from experiencing the fullness of life that's possible. But here's the thing. We have a choice. We can keep wearing those old, worn-out coats, or we can choose to let them go. We can embrace the transformative power of faith and step into a new way of seeing ourselves and the world.
Beautifully put. And if this got you thinking about your own spiritual vision, those beggar's coats you might be carrying around, well, just imagine what else we could unpack together. Thanks for taking this deep dive with us. And who knows, maybe this sparked a little something for you to reflect on as you go about your day.